You're listening to Big World Network.
Kai's Inquisition, The Blight of Shadowfall, Season 2, Episode 3. Written and read by Ton Krakowski. When Kai returned from hunting, the sun had slipped beneath the horizon, and the night animals were beginning to stir. She walked into the village with a young wild goat balanced across her shoulders to find Reynard and Jack quietly conversing near the cage. Jack sat cross-legged in the dirt so that her height matched that of the thief as he leaned casually against the tree branch bars of the enclosure. They were so engrossed in their discourse that Kai was only 10 paces away before they noticed her. "What are you two talking about?" Kai asked them as she examined the cage as a possible source of firewood and a spit on which to roast the meat. She placed the animal carcass on the ground and checked the sturdiness of the vines holding the branches together. "Oh, nothing of importance," Reynard said. He began cleaning his fingernails with an ornate dagger with a red blade that fit perfectly in his hands. "Pia and Chajek are still asleep, so we were discussing how we might get off this rock. Jack is convinced that she can throw me to the next island and still beat me to it swimming." Kai chuckled. "She does look confident in her abilities. Perhaps a wager is in order?" "I doubt you have anything I'd be interested in winning," Reynard quipped, his tone friendly. "Here, let me help you," he offered, using the new knife to slice through the vines with little difficulty. "Where did you get that blade, Reynard? It suits you." Jack nodded in agreement, but held her tongue. "I found it in one of the huts. Someone had tied it to the end of a staff to use as a spear, but I can make much better use of it." "So I see," she said, watching him speedily reduce the cage to a heap of branches and vines. Kai and Reynard set about the work of building a fire, dressing the goat, and setting it above the fire to roast, while Jack stood watch near the hut where the others were sleeping. They worked efficiently together, each pitching in where needed without comment. Soon the scent of dinner was making all their mouths water. Kai sliced a few bloody, still raw cuts from the goat's haunch and brought them to Zephyr, who had managed to free himself from Pia's pack and was squawking loudly to be fed. Once he had gobbled down the meat, she placed him on her shoulder and returned to the cook fire. "So, did you see any sign of this... what was his name again?" Reynard asked Kai. "Tadaroth. And to answer your question, no, I did not find any sign of him." Reynard paled. "He was the one who orchestrated the mutiny and worked the magic on the statue before he took off with it?" Kai sank down to the ground next to Reynard. She looked at him suspiciously. "That is what the traitor confessed to me before he died. Do you know Tadaroth?" "I've heard of him," Reynard admitted, clearly unsettled. "Nasty piece of work. He's a sorcerer, but he's also a mercenary who specializes in anything foul or corrupt, and takes his payment in dark magical items. A friend of mine once crossed him and was found in pieces in a clearing where some kind of demonic ritual had taken place. If you want to find him, you're on your own. I want no part of it." Inwardly, Kai breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't trust this halfling, and would be glad to be rid of him. "If that's what you want." Jack had been passing by on her rounds and interrupted. "No. Danger apart. You come, or Jack carry." She planted her feet behind the little man, folded her arms, and gazed down intimidatingly at both Kai and Reynard in turn. Reynard rolled his eyes. "You just want to see how far you can throw me, don't you? Or have you fallen in love with me?" Kai snorted. "It's been known to happen," Reynard pouted comically. To Jack he said, "You should know that I'm a one-wench type of man. I'll break your tender green heart to pieces, my lovely warrior." Jack just grinned and grunted. "Throw far. Try now." A noise from the hut caught their attention. They tensed, but relaxed again once they saw Pia leave the structure. She appeared to be refreshed, but worried as she joined them. "Has anyone noticed how there are no women or children here?" she asked sharply. "A community this size could not be made up entirely of men. There must be more cannibals somewhere on the island, or perhaps on another island nearby, who could arrive at any time. Chajak should be fine to travel come morning. We shouldn't stay beyond that." "We shouldn't stay beyond that in any case," Kai asserted. "The longer we delay, the more difficult it will be to find Tadaroth and recover the statue. I will do it on my own if I must, but I would rather have assistance. I would also hazard a guess that Tadaroth has some kind of transport arranged for the idol, and that may be our only way off this island." "I gather you weren't able to learn where he went?" Pia asked Kai, her lips pursed in thought. When Kai shook her head, the scholar said, "Well then, it's a good thing you have me. I'll meditate on it, and with any luck, the gods will see fit to show me the way." Kai smiled. "It is nice to have an oracle as a companion. Thank you." "Don't mention it," Pia said, looking around curiously. "Now, what do you have to eat besides goat? I don't eat meat, and I'm starving." After dinner, Pia insisted they stack the bodies of the dead, as well as the remains the cannibals had been processing into jerky and leather, on top of the platform and use it as a makeshift funeral pyre. Kai felt a twinge of guilt as the flames twirled higher, devouring the corpses. If she had only woken Brivis when Zephyr was hatching, the elf would not have met her end in such a horrific fashion. Kai pushed the thought from her mind. Brivis was foolish. Her blood was not on Kai's hands. By the flickering light of the fire they rummaged through the pile of armor and weapons, choosing pieces to replace some of what they had lost when the ocean wanderer sank. Pia turned out to be adept at appraisals, and found a few magical items to augment their abilities. Golden cuffs for Jack that doubled her already impressive size on command. A ring fit for Reynard that allowed him to fall as slowly as a leaf on a calm day. A delicate silver circlet to help Pia focus her spellcasting, and a charmed bow of exquisite quality, boasting enhanced precision and range, which Kai claimed as her own. They were even able to find a crossbow and quiver of arrows small enough for the bard to use. After an uneventful night sleeping in shifts, with the exception of Chajak, who had been unconscious until he was shaken awake, the group gathered just outside the village in preparation to travel. Jack had fully recovered from her ordeal, but the bard had lost the ability to speak despite Pia's best efforts. For the first time, his clothing was rumpled, torn in places, and stained with blood. He stared sullenly at the ground in front of him, refusing to meet anyone's eyes, ashamed of his appearance and mourning the loss of his voice. "Now I'm useless," he thought miserably. As if reading his mind, Reynard clapped him on the back and said, "You are more than your voice, my friend. Let me show you a couple of moves to try out on your next opponent. I'll also show you how to get those bloodstains out the old-fashioned way. I happen to be an expert at it," he bragged, jerking both his thumbs at his chest. Kai fed a chunk of goat meat to Zephyr as he perched on her shoulder. He ate it greedily and cawed for more, rubbing his crest lovingly on Kai's head when she complied. "Did your meditation reveal anything, Pia?" Kai asked, eager to be on their way. "Only a general direction and the assurance that Tadaroth is still on this island. We need to continue further up the path. I would suggest we proceed as we have been by remaining just off the main trail and having Reynard keep an eye out for any hazards." The rogue spoke up. "I don't mind scouting ahead, but I'd rather we stay further off the trail than we have been. Let's stay close to the shoreline this time. We'll have the cliffs and ocean to one side of us, making it harder for us to be taken by surprise. Plus, we will be able to attract the attention of any ships that may be passing by. I'm sick of this island." All but Kai thought this a good idea, but that was only because her first priority was not being rescued. It was reclaiming the statue of Naderu.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.
You're listening to Big World Network.